Hey everyone, welcome back to Twitch 65 Hobbies. I found this Lindberg kit at an estate sale recently, and most of the model kits there were of the same quality, but this one had a good memory attached to it, so I just had to pick it up. I lost my mom 3 years ago, and my dad 6.5 years ago, and I have many family stories of them when they were dating. Almost all of those stories revolve around my dad's Triumph TR3. This kit is my first non-military vehicle. It was molded in 1960, or about a year before my parents would start dating. The kit is more toy-like as compared to more modern kits. In fact, there's so little detail that I knew I just had to do some kit bashing. There are 14 parts in the entire kit. The axles are just straight plastic rods, the tires have lots of flash and only have one side, and the overly thick windscreen has two big sink marks on the outward-facing surface, and no clear glass parts. The body has only one add-on part, the front grille, and the fit is not very good. Filler will be needed. Using styrene sheet and a sharp hobby knife, model cement, and lots of patience, I built up the wheel arch liners, the firewall, and the missing rear bench footwell. Here we have all the sheets glued in place and ready to be primed. Before I primed, I did come back and rescribe some of the lines on the vehicle. For this build, I decided to try using rattle cans for the primer, the paint, and the clear coat. I chose to use Tamiya paints, and I did have to do all of my spraying outside, as I don't have a dedicated spray booth for paints with accelerants. The gray primer coat revealed some flaws, but I did some sanding and repriming, and I finally got it as smooth as I could. I also remember my dad talking about his TR3, and that he bought it new, and it was a dark green with a camel interior. So I mixed up some German camo brown with some pale sand to make the interior color. I gave the interior several days to dry and cure so I could mask it off without pulling up all that paint. And while this was sitting on the bench, I took the Colts 3D and found two figures that kind of looked like what I'd pass for a young mom and a young dad. They are both scaled for 1/24th scale, which is a typical model car size, but this model is in 1/32nd scale. So I resized them down to the right scale and pulled the male figure down from 6 foot to 5'8", and scaled the female figure to 5'4", which would be my mother's height in heels. Now, these two figures are dressed a little more upscale than my folks would have been. So instead of blue jeans and a collared shirt, Dad got khakis and a nice sweater. Mom never wore boots, nor wore her hair in a ponytail, but this is the best model in a dress that I could find that at least had high heels, because until she retired, I don't remember my mom ever wearing anything but high heels. Back to the car. Masking was done with a paper towel to take up the bulk and Tamiya masking tape. This is the first time I used these rattle cans from Tamiya, and every source that I read or watched stressed using lots of light coats over trying to cover everything in one coat. I gave every layer 30 minutes to an hour at least to dry in between coats. The clear coat was applied the same way, 3 or 4 light layers with an hour or two between each coat. Time to see if all the masking turned out. And like I've said in my other videos, I love pulling the masking off and seeing the underneath and see the two contrasting colors. Overall, the masking worked as I had hoped, with no bleed through. There is some overspray from the underside of the firewall, but that's easily fixed. And here on the bench with a proper lighting, you can see the dark green color. I used some internet photos to show me that the dash leather actually wrapped up over the sheet metal, but not up to where the windscreen would sit. Purists at this point would have spent hours and hours wet sanding and polishing the car to a mirror-like finish. But I like the gloss coat as is, so it's just time to finish off the body. I decided to run Tamiya black enamel panel liner between all the body panels, mostly because I have it on hand and I'm very comfortable using it. And 2, I didn't feel like running out to buy an ultra-thin, fine black marker that I may never use again. All the chrome bits got rebased in a glossy black and then top coated with a bright aluminum color that I had on hand. I think it is passable. The interior was finished as best as the kit would allow, but I did add a manual shifter from a piece of floral wire and a plastic bead from the wife's craft collection. Taillights and the turn signals were painted silver first, then the red lenses were applied over the silver. I also painted a Keystone State license plate to add to the rear of the car. Luckily, Pennsylvania is one of the 8 states that still do not require a front plate, so I only had to make one. The one hood emblem was painted with as much detail as I could muster for such a small scale, but again, the detail in the kit was there more as a suggestion than hard accuracy. The diorama base was super simple. I had this finished edge block of wood in my stash with all the sides already wood stained and already ready to go. All I did was glue down some coarse model railroad gravel to the base, and then once all that was dry, I ran a strip of grass down the middle. The chrome bumper and painted wheels were added, and the car was finished, except for the windshield. Ended up taking a piece of thin clear plastic from an old blister pack and got it cut and fit halfway decent, so I just glued it to the back of the part and then added it to the car after the base was completed. And here is a final look at what I'm calling Mom and Pop's date night. I hope you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane that I took, and until next time, happy hobbying.